Guys, it's Isabel here. We are back for another book review. So for this one, we actually have quite a few books that I'm going to be reviewing because this last couple weeks I've been reading pretty quickly. So I haven't had the time to actually make book reviews for these books yet. But I've been trying to read a lot more these days, so maybe now on I'm going to start reviewing 2 books instead of 1. Depending on how fast I can read them and how long they are. I'm actually it'll probably start being maybe 1 because I'm running out of like books that only have like 300 pages, but anyways. So, we're just going to go through this and hopefully I remember what I read about, because it's hard sometimes because this shit gets crossed, especially when I'm reading other books, so yeah. So the first book we are going to be reviewing is There's Someone Inside Your House. As you can see, that this was also a Netflix movie. The book and the movie are very different. If you read stuff that have books and movies intertwined, they're always different. The movie I quite enjoyed. It was pretty interesting, and the book was even more enjoyable. So There's Someone Inside Your House. It says, it's almost been a year since Makani Young came to live with her grandmother, and she's still adjusting to her new life in rural Nebraska. Then, one by one, students of her high school began to die in a series of gruesome murders, each with increasing grotesque flair. As the body count rises and the terror grows closer, will Makani survive the killer's twisted plan? So I enjoyed this very much. I gave it... What did I give it? I haven't been able to rate it yet on my Bookstagram, but I will give this a 8 out of 10 just because it was interesting, and the books always seem to be a little bit better and more detailed than the movies. So, yeah. If you've seen the movie, it came out I think 2-3 years ago, so it's not that new. But if you have seen the movie or read the book, the subtle difference is that both Zach and Rodrigo were a part of Makani's friend group in the movie, but in the book they're not. There's more subtle differences, but I can't really put to my mind right now because it's late and I'm tired and it's hot. So yeah, but that one was a good one and I enjoyed it a lot. I also just need to get it out of the way so I have more space to fucking do shit with. But yeah, next is... Fuck, what was next? I think this one. So next is a book called Snow and Rose. It was a pretty simple book. It's not even like that long. It's like 100 or so pages because it's like a little fairy tale book. I think I got this at Goodwill or a thrift store. But it says, Snow and Rose were 2 sisters, as different as night and day. They lived in the woods, but always haven't been so. Once they lived in a big house with spectacular gardens and army of servants. Once they had a mother and father who loved them more than the sun and the moon. But that was before their father disappeared into the woods, and their mother disappeared into sorrow. This is their story, and the story of the enchanted woods, and I've been waiting for them to break the set and the terrible spells. Snow and Rose is a reimagining of the classic but little-known fairy tale Snow White and Rose Red of... Yeah. But it was pretty good. I mean, it was pretty interesting, so I give it like 6 out of 10. I mean, it's a basic, like, pretty cute, like, storybook about these twin sisters who try to find what happened to their father, and then other people go missing. So, it was pretty cute, and I definitely do like the illustration and, like, all the, like, cute pictures in it and whatnot. Yeah, like, all the cute little pictures. And it had a cute little ending, so I really liked it a lot, so it was really cute. So next, I didn't even say the authors, I'm so sorry. There's Someone Inside Your House is by Stephanie Perkins. Snow and Rose is by Emily Winfield Martin. Next one is A Girl Like Us by Christina Alger. So it says, FBI agent Nell Flynn hasn't been home in 10 years. Nell and her father, homicide detective Martin Flynn, had never had much of a relationship, and Suffolk Country will always be awash in memories of her mother, who was murdered when Nell was just 7. But when Martin dies in a motorcycle accident, Nell must return home to close his estate, and in the process ends up becoming involved in this last case her father worked, an investigation into the brutal murders of 2 young women. The further Nell digs, the more likely it seems that her father should be the prime suspect, and that his friends or the police are covering for his tracks. Plagued by doubts of her mother's death and her own role in exonerating her father, that very case, Nell can't help but ask questions: who killed the 2 women and why? But she may not like the answers she finds, not just about those she loves, but about herself. So I'd give this literally a 10 out of 10. It was super fucking interesting. I managed to finish it during like an entire work shift, but I genuinely really loved it. I'm all about fucking like homicide fucking detective shit. It is like literally the most interesting thing that I've ever read. I think it's like probably second best to like my favorite genre aside like horror mystery. Like these are like fucking phenomenal. And I mean I grew up with like Criminal Minds too, so I'm like I love that shit. But yeah, no, it was like very good of like keeping you tightly like wanting to read more, because it was like, did her father have some kind of involvement in it? Can you really trust the people that she was working with? Like, it was like a whole ordeal. It was very good. I suggest you go get it. You can get it at Target, obviously. But yeah, I fucking loved it. And last is a book I literally just finished during one 9-hour work shift. Didn't take me 9 hours to finish. More or less. I mean, it's work. I kind of have to do my job. But it's called The Forgotten Girls by Sarah Bledel. So it says, 4 days later, Louise Rick still had no answers. An identified woman's body was discovered in a local forest. A large, unique scar on one side of her face that should have made identification easy, but nobody reported her missing. As a new commander of Missing Person Department, Louise risks involving the media by releasing a photo of the victim, hoping to find someone who knew her. Louise gambles pays off, and an older woman phones to say that she recognizes the woman as Liz Mette, a child who she once cared for in the state mental institution many years ago. Liz Mette, like other children in the institution, was abandoned by her family and branded a forgotten girl. But Louise soon discovers something more disturbing. Liz Mette had a twin, and both girls were issued death certificates more than 30 years ago. Aided by her friend, journalist Camilla Lind, Louise finds that the investigation takes a surprising and unsettling turn when it brings her closer to her child and home. And as she uncovers more crimes that were committed and hidden in the forest, she is forced to confront a terrible link to her own past that has been carefully concealed. Once again, I would give this a fucking 10 out of 10. I absolutely really enjoyed it. Again, it's all about fucking being a detective in a police department and finding the clues of what fucking happened next. But this one had gripped me from the beginning, because it was pretty much like all about where they find missing person or missing girl, and it's like, oh, growing up their mother died, their father had to abandon them because they didn't get enough oxygen at birth, so they had brain damage, which they were mentally handicapped. So they had to be put into an institution because their father couldn't care for them, and the twins could not be separated. And then it said, oh, there were death certificates for them. But how is it that this girl was still alive 30 plus years after the death certificates were released? So that was pretty interesting. I liked it a lot, and yeah. So, there's that. There are a couple other books that I have. I think there's one book that I considered a DNF. It was Tentacles. It was supposed to be about like cryptids and the Kraken and Loch Ness Monster, but it just wasn't interesting enough to keep me going. So there's 4 books right now that I'm gonna get rid of. So yeah. So my next book that I'm going to read is called Someone We Know by Shari Lapena. And it says, in a quiet, leafy suburb of upstate New York, a teenager has been sneaking into houses and into owners' computers, as well as learning their secrets and maybe sharing some of them too. Who is he, and what might have he uncovered? After 2 anonymous letters are received, whispers starts to circulate around suspicious mounts. And when a woman down the street is found murdered, the tension reaches the breaking point. Who killed her? And who knows more than they're telling? And how far will all these nice people go to protect their own secrets? In this neighborhood, it's not just the husbands and wives who play games. Here, everyone in the family has something to hide. So, That seems pretty interesting. I also have The Ivies, and You'd Be Home by Now by Kathleen Glasgow, who's also one of my favorite authors. But this one is shorter than those two, so I'm going to start with this one because it also seems pretty interesting. And yeah, so that is it for those. I will be back once I finish more. It seems that I can read about a 300-page book in one work shift at my other job, so we might be doing that because sometimes it's easier, because when the dogs don't do nothing but sleep, you can get your book out, and I'm glad that I'm able to read and not get in trouble for it. So yeah, so there's that. And yeah, so that's pretty much the ending for this one. If you guys enjoyed, everything's down in the description. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. I love you guys. And I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.